Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Gutsy Podcast. Thank you for everybody, for tuning in, streaming, downloading, whatever it is you're doing. But we really appreciate it. I hope you're getting something out of it. There's got so many inspirational stories, so many things that we've shared, and courageous people coming on and sharing their experience, and I'm absolutely over the moon with our guest this week. Hello, Avril. Avril Bruce. Avril's coming in with two hats on today, which we're going to share with you. So Avril Bruce, nurse therapist, NHS for 22 years. Now, private practice.
Yep.
McEwan Foundation nurse therapist for 3 years now, Avril.
Yes.
3 years next month.
3 years. I was thinking about that driving in. Yeah, 3 years in September.
Parent
doesn't feel like it.
It absolutely doesn't feel like 3 years.
No.
Proud parent of George, who's
my boy.
Your boy.
Yep.
You're proud parent of other Waynes, but
obviously, I've got another two. let's not steal the limelight here.
No, but depending on when this is going out, which is highly unprofessional of me, I don't know if you'll be going out before George or after George, because we pre-recorded George last week.
Ah, right.
We pre-recorded George last week, so it's great to have you on.
Yeah.
And
excited.
No, it's great. It's brilliant to see you, because we just do Zooms, really.
We do a lot of Zooms, yeah.
Because you're busy looking after our patients.
Yeah, definitely.
And doing a fantastic job at that. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. For those that have met Avril over the last 3 years, and for those who don't know, that Avril heads up our adult mental health service and is our nurse therapist, and it's been a brilliant 3 years. Some great outcomes.
Yeah, it's just grown from strength to strength, really, since we started, hasn't it? Yeah,
I think it's definitely something that our community needed and needs more of,
and more.
And we're definitely going to talk a little bit about that later.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been up to, Avril? I want to know what you've been up to apart from being that wonderful nurse therapist. What's happening to you?
Oh my goodness, what have I not been up to? Predominantly, my life revolves around my family, my kids, and my work. That's it in a nutshell. And my friends, obviously, they're extended family, aren't they? Really?
Of course they are. They are.
Getting into my garden. That's what I've been doing over the summer.
Aye.
But not much summer. Yeah.
Are you good at that?
Not really. I'm learning it as I go. I got a greenhouse, so I've got 2 tomatoes, and I know they're out of season, but they're that size and they're turning red. So I will make myself eat them. The
proud parent of 2 tomatoes.
2 tomatoes. And I've got lettuce. So
aye.
Yeah. Anything to distract my mind and keep myself busy at the same time.
A very good friend of mine and friend of the foundation, Tom Urie, had a bit of a lettuce incident I seen online this week, where and I'll probably get this wrong, but it was making me laugh because it freaked Tom out. He wasn't allowed lettuce on his sandwich in Dobbies, and if he wanted lettuce on his sandwich in Dobbies, he had to pay an extra £4.
What? £4 for lettuce?
Yeah, and it's caused a bit of a stir online.
Right. Right.
So Tom, I really do hope that you've sorted out your lettuce incident with the fine people or not so fine people of Dobbies Garden Centre.
And if not, I'll bring some lettuce for him.
Yeah, if anybody's watching, check out Tom Urie online. He's a bit of a star.
Right.
Drop him a PM. Send him some lettuce.
Yes. Yep.
Or Avril, you could send it when you.
I don't know how it'll taste at the moment. They're maybe just small shoots, but yeah.
Well, we need to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Need to start somewhere. So, Avril, let's kind of go into your journey with inflammatory bowel disease, because it's, as a parent, you've got George, who we met originally through the scholarship programme,
right.
and I remember he was wee George then.
He's wee George. We still call him wee George, although he's the biggest out of us all.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not wee
Tallest
George.
out of the family.
He's not wee George anymore.
No,
definitely not. And what a fine young man he is, I have to say.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic guy. Super talented. Really going places. That guy.
Yeah.
I was going to say kid. He's definitely not a kid.
He's still my kid.
Yeah, he's still yours.
He's still being.
So, going back, Avril, to is it 2018, 2019?
Yeah. Yep, he started that kind of, 2017 is when it all kind of started, but actually his diagnosis would have been 2019. Yeah, 2019.
So how, I think it's really important that we share how it started, because diagnosis for many takes a bit longer than it should, and we know that, and people are trying to work towards making that diagnosis a bit quicker, and that's fantastic news, and long may that continue. But getting back to the symptoms and how all that came about for George, and you and Big George looking at it, looking at that as parents, how did it materialise? How did it start, really?
Well, George was always a kind of small, petite, young guy. That was just George. He's just, everything was in proportion. He was small, even as a baby. But it was when he was about 10, just 9-year-old, he got some sort of bug, as kids do. They get bugs.
Of course.
It's like sickness and diarrhea or winter vomit and bug, whatever it may be, he gets a bug. But he would take a bit longer to kind of bounce back. Mm. But only now you can think about that as you reflect back. But at the time, you think, that's fine, that's okay.
Of course.
But 2017 was when everything really kicked off for us, because that was the year that I lost my mum. And that was the year that my baby was born. So my youngest was born the exact same year. So my daughter was born in February 2017, and my mum died in October 2017. So this is where it all kicked off, George's kind of health.
Really?
And saying that, when my youngest, when I found out I was pregnant, I was 40, and it was like, oh my God. I looked at my husband and he's like, oh my God. How did that happen? So anyway, but so there was a lot of stress in the family.
And surprised by the sounds of it.
But a lot of excitement as well. So we're really excited for this. And then bang, my mum passed away suddenly. So there was a lot happened that year.
I'm really sorry.
And then symptoms, we had a holiday booked and George got food poisoning. And then from there, everything just got worse. Everything got worse for him, physically, how he was experienced. So it was back and forward to the GP, constantly back and forward. A&E, different things. And everybody's saying it's a virus, or it's bacteria, or it's this. But nobody really listened. Yeah. And the first person that listened was probably the latter part of 2018, and it was a GP. She was a locum GP. It's weird how small things really stick in your head. And she says, you know what? Because she could feel my worry. And I kept on saying, I don't know what it is, but there's something just not right. And she says, usually mums know.
It's a mother's instinct.
It's just, you just know, but you've not got the knowledge. You don't know anything at all. And she says, you know what? We'll do some tests. So that's when she done stool sample, bloods. Yeah. She went, it could be he's lactose intolerant. It could be, because George's symptoms was vomiting and abdominal pain. There was no diarrhea, there was no blood, nothing like that at all.
Not the stereotypical ones that people would associate with inflammatory bowel disease to begin with. But you know what? The symptoms materialise in so many different ways that people, and probably GPs as well, wouldn't recognise right away.
Because you're right, every time you think of inflammatory bowel disease, you think about your poo or stool sample, and that does happen. Yeah. But initially, as you say, everybody's completely different. So George was vomiting and abdominal pain, and she listened, and I felt, right, I'm going to get somewhere. So that day, me being responsive, went away. I was like, it's gluten, we're taking lactose, we're taking everything out of his diet. And he's looking at me going, but I like a biscuit and I like a cake. But I thought, what can I control here? I can control that. I can't control anything else. Yeah. But his symptoms just got worse and worse. And then we went for a consultant. We got there, we done all that part. And then that's when we eventually got referred through to Glasgow. Queen Elizabeth, the Children's Hospital, and that's when we started the journey. So we went for scopes, and we had booked our holiday, first holiday ever as all of us, to go to America. Disneyland, you know, all the things. Never been able to do it before because it costs a bit of an arm and a leg.
It does.
So we thought, this is it. We've had an awful few years. We're going to go for it. And this is where we booked. So we were supposed to go in the November of 2019. George was going for his scopes. I think it must have been about August or September time. And then the consultant, I think it was Dr. Taylor at the time, she came out and she says, everything's looking good. You know, the scope that he had down below, but then he had one, and she says, there's a bit we just can't get in the middle. She says, but we've taken a biopsy anyway. Yeah. I was like, right, so one way I felt really, really relieved, but in the next I'm going, if it's not that, what is it?
Of course, it's natural to kind of think that, because you're still unsure. Mm-hmm. I think naturally you feel as if you're in the right place, dealing with the right people, you've got that connection. And something that you touched on there, they were listening to you.
Yeah, that was the key.
Because that you know, time and time again, you hear that frustration. You know, you've got that mother's instinct. Mm-hmm. You know something's not right. And we hear it, whether it's a parent, a guardian, whatever, they've got that instinct, or whether it's the patient themselves. Listen, something's just not right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're maybe not speaking to the right person, or for whatever reason, but to get that someone's actually listening to you.
Yeah,
it gives you a bit of confidence.
You're right, there's so much in listening. It's a skill.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have it. It's bizarre.
Yeah, somebody said something to me not long ago, and I'll probably get this wrong. Lightly.
No.
We're tuned in to listen to words and conversation, but we're not actually tuned to listen.
No.
Does that make sense?
Well, if you think at school, you're programmed, aren't you? You're programmed for certain things.
Yeah.
So your words catch, you pick that up. But to really sit down and listen and take you out of your head, and listen to someone's story, not many people do that. Yeah,
but it's an absolute skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and it's people listen to someone speak to reply.
Because you're actively waiting to respond to the next one.
For your bit.
Yep.
For your bit. Mm-hmm. And if you sit in our weekly meetings, nobody waits for their bit, they just jump in.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
But you should come. It's interesting. It's interesting. And we're going to have a listening training session, I think.
And you do need to really just take it all in, and that is a skill, that's because you are in your own head and thinking of the next thing and the next thing. Yeah,
definitely. But even though you're going through that massively stressful experience, when you're seeing young George, and he's really quite ill, but you've still not got the diagnosis, but you've kind of get a little bit of comfort in the fact that you kind of trust the people that are there, that looking after them, and they're doing the right things.
And that's the thing, you're handing over the most precious thing in the world to you. To these kind of
no. Hang on, no. You've got two daughters, but
my 3 kids are the most precious thing in the world to me.
Oh, so they are. They are. Tell the truth.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. I think I'm probably a bit more tougher on my daughters than what I am on my son. But no, your kids, well, in my opinion, they're the most precious thing in the world to me.
Of course.
And when you're in there and you're handing that over to the laws of these experts, and trust me, every person I went to, not all of them they're probably experts in their field, but their people skills, their listening skills, then I didn't credit them because they just didn't take on board anything that you were saying. But this consultant in particular says, it's looking good, we'll take the biopsy and we'll let you know. And I was like, oh, right, that's great. But on the flip side, if it's not that, what is it? So you're still in this debate in your head. So I got a phone call, and they told me, actually, it looks like a diagnosis of Crohn's. Right. We were like, oh man.
And at that point in your life, have you ever heard of Crohn's?
No. Well, I think maybe years and years ago, I think my mum says that one of my cousins or someone she knew, but not really. Never really heard of it.
Not really. And see, the thing is, I mean, you touched on it a little bit earlier. You know, you're one of your pride and joys because all the children are equal. Aren't they?
So important.
Yeah, they are. So George, the favourite, is
not at all. Today it's National Middle Sibling Day or something like that.
How's that even a thing?
I don't know. But I sent a TikTok of it to them this morning. I went, there you go, George. Happy Middle Sibling Day.
I mean, how is that even a thing? I mean, who invents that? Who decides that it's National Middle Sibling Day? Where's the office that actually decides this stuff? Yeah. Because there's loads of stuff like that.
There is actually.
I mean, obviously we've got World IBD Day and Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week, stuff like that, which are very, very important on the calendar for us and so many around the world. But National Middle Sibling Day.
Yep. Okay. And then there'll be National Youngest Sibling Day. Then there'll be National Oldest Sibling. You know, come on.
There's people getting left out here. I'm not happy with that. But to be serious for a wee second, you've got George going through like a pretty harrowing time. You've no longer just lost your mum.
I know.
You know, it's like
a few years.
You know, it's you're still, if you don't mind me saying, you're still going through that grieving process. It's still raw. Everything that went with that because it was quite sudden.
Yep.
And then you've been hit with this. I mean, it's a tough journey.
Oh, when you think about it, it's still unimaginable because you've still got a newborn baby in there as well.
Forgot about Honor.
So you've got the loss of my mum, and I might cry as we go through this conversation, but you've got the sudden loss of the kind of matriarch, the one that is really, she was always there. You know, she was someone that, fantastic in a crisis, working class, working hard, 3 jobs, up at 5 a.m, cleaning pubs, you know. My mum really worked, but she was always there. Yeah. And then that's taken. You've not got that anymore. Yeah. Then you've got this baby that really depends on you. But then you've got your son who needs you. Yeah, and see the thing, like, having unfortunately my fair amount of loss in my days. The reason why we're here is my mum Catherine. You know, the foundation set up in her honour. But just the year before that, my gran died, who's my mum's mum, they were best friends. They were inseparable. The way you describe your mum reminds me of my gran. Really, my wee Granny Rose, because she had multiple jobs. She was up cleaning houses and doing all sorts of things, and she just grafting away. Big character, you know, held everybody together, very much like my mum as well. And you've not really got time here to grieve and be yourself and go through that process, because you've got a newborn who demands your attention, quite rightly so. You know that. Naturally, it's your mother's instinct to do that, but you almost park. Yeah. You almost park, like, consciously or subconsciously, you're parking that way behind. Your needs are way behind.
Yeah. And then you go. Then the next thing is you're dealing with George, going through that process of whatever that is, because at that moment you don't know until it's eventually. Yeah, you've got George has got Crohn's disease. And you get that news that it's a lifelong condition. Yeah, that's well, you don't. Whammy. All you know is Crohn's disease, and you're going, okay, I think I've heard of it, but I don't really know. And then the worst thing you do is you start to Google, don't you? Oh, Google doctor. My goodness. It's not a sensible thing, is it? It's absolutely crazy. But it's a natural thing. And that's something that you advise people not to do. And what's the first thing you do? Because your phone's accessible, isn't it? You're like, yeah. And you 2 and 2 makes 20. You know, you blow it out of proportion. But you spiral, don't you? You spiral. Too easy. And you know, you say 2 and 2 makes 20, but one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Before you know it, you're down this rabbit hole of doom. Yeah. And you know, listen, that's not taken away, because this is, you know, inflammatory bowel disease can be extremely scary.
Oh.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, and in my family, with my mum, it was the ultimate scary because we lost her eventually to the effects of that, of Crohn's disease. So it's real, very much so. But you can go down that rabbit hole of absolute doom and negativity and everything that goes with that, and you automatically thinking the worst. And to be fair, you had good reason for it as well, but you know, because George was pretty ill.
Oh, he was really, really unwell. He was. And see, since you got that diagnosis, then you started to see the decline. It's bizarre.
Right.
You know, so if you're thinking 2017 to 2019, so there's 2 years, and prior to that, not keeping too well, but actually you thought it was just bugs and his immunity growing.
Yeah, because you're not in awe.
You've not got a clue, really.
No.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. But once you start to know, then actually perspective and you look at things differently, don't you?
Yeah.
You start to pick up stuff. So I'm starting to watch my boy and looking at him going, you are really unwell. So we start that journey, and then the following year, he must have been about 13. The following year, my oldest daughter was turning 18. And I remember seeing consultants, and it was, we want to put him on steroids. And I remember my mum's journey, and she got steroids for treatment. And I think that had a big impact on her, steroids. Now, I'm not to say it is lots of people get them. They're quite commonly used. It does its job. But for me, what I went through, I was like, he's not having that.
So that was when they started saying they were going to put him on steroids. Was that a trigger for you because you had the previous bad experience?
So remember, 2 years, not even just 2 years, just coming up for 2 years, the first port of treatment was steroids. My mum's first port of treatment was steroids. So she had myasthenia gravis. Never heard of it in my life before. But I know a lot about it now. So it's an autoimmune condition.
Okay.
So if you think Crohn's, they're all autoimmune conditions.
Absolutely.
But you don't know all the connections. So read a lot about it. It's like 1 in thousands of people get this myasthenia gravis. But the first treatment is steroids.
Right.
And stress can make it worse. And I was like, no way. And my husband's going, but we have to do the treatment that's right. I was like, it's not happening. It's not happening. And I was adamant because then I thought, I can't allow. You know how you hold on to something that you think caused it, and that was the cause? Probably because my mum worked for years and years and years, neglected herself, focused on all of us. Yeah. That was the cause. As well as it, you know, and my mum was probably unwell for a long time that I never noticed.
Yeah, but do you not think it's human nature to grab onto something and blame? Yeah. But I blame either someone or something.
You just anchor on and you hold on to it because it gives you perspective and it makes it right. And
and you justify it in your own mind. And but that's human nature. And in this case, it's steroids. Now, steroids is probably not that I'm medical, but having known so many people that the steroid treatment's been positive for is the right thing for George.
Of course it is.
But that set alarm bells for you because of that previous experience.
Yep. So I was like, nope, no way. And they're like, I know. And I had the nurses trying to, and he's not your mum. I was like, I don't care. Yeah. And this is when this masculine energy comes in, whatever you want to call it, you know. And then my husband's trying to control this, like, oh my God, I hate to get perspective. This woman's gotten crazy.
Which I've known you for a few years now, Avril, and you're probably the calmest person I've ever met in my life. You know, you're really, as an individual, and in whatever scenario, whether it's professional or social or whatever, you're really measured and calm, and you take everything in. So to think of you like that is just like, that's alien.
Totally. Well, that was me. Speak to my husband about that. No, I just, no, you can't have this. You can't, because I'm thinking the worst case scenario.
Of course, yeah. That and Google.
And Google just makes things worse, doesn't it? And then they says, okay, right, well, listen to you. So they look to start autoimmune suppressants. Yep. So azathioprine, they started him on that, and I was reluctant to that as well. I says, we can do this. We will manage this through diet. We will manage this. We can do this. And George is just looking at me going, okay, if my mum's...
Well, of course, well,
you have to look at your parents. You have to take their guidance because you don't know yourself.
Yeah, definitely. But it's through your experience of being so raw and losing your mum and the drugs and everything that went along with that, and in your mindset, that's as mentioned, it's a natural thing. But when did reality kind of hit on this? Reality
kicked in, and I'll never ever forget it, and I can feel myself getting emotional about it, is when George was in the bathroom up the stairs and he was being sick, and I'm like, you all right? And he just broke down, and the only way I can relate to any kind of mum is child labour. You know, when you're having those abdominal pains and the sweat is pouring off you, the blood drains from you, and you try and breathe it through, but the pain is unbearable. You just have to look at research. It says women that are giving birth and having contractions, the pain, the Richter scale for pain, is off the charts.
Yeah.
It's like your bones being crushed. That's what it's like. But there's hormones and everything gets released for that, and then you have this bundle of joy. I seen my son experience that with no outcome, with no hormones, with no pain measure. That was him, and he was rolled up on the floor in pain, in tears. And I thought, what am I? I then blamed myself for me making those decisions on his behalf.
Yeah.
You know, I can. And then I thought, nah, I have to phone the doctor. I have to say, yep, start it.
Surrender.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I didn't go with the steroids, so they negotiated and they gave us the azathioprine. We started that, and then Dr. Taylor really took over because we had a consultant in Stirling, and I just didn't. I thought, right, I can control. I don't really get on with him. He doesn't listen. I don't have faith in him. He's probably really knowledgeable, but just the experience, you know, it's like going to a lovely restaurant and the food could be out of this world, but if you're not getting the right attention and the right conversation and the atmosphere when you go in, you won't go back.
Yeah, I totally get it. And if you're dealing with your child's health, you want to be comfortable. Well, in a really, really uncomfortable situation, obviously, you want as much TLC and as much confidence and it's like anything in life. It's, you know, life's about, you know, very much about relationships, and when you're in those really testing times, the people around you and the people that you're trusting, you need a bond. I think, and that's not always there, unfortunately. So if you're going into an environment for the care of your son in a unbelievably worrying and harrowing time, you want a bit of confidence and you want to kind of have a relationship of trust. Yeah, and that's somebody so important. And if there's any work to be done, it should be done with nurses, doctors. Yeah. That's a big piece of work that needs to be done in recruitment, selection and training. But so for me, I thought, right, what can I do? So we got Dr. Taylor, and she just got it. She just listened. There was no barriers. There was nothing. She really just listened. So she says, I want to try different drugs and these biologics. Yeah. She says, but your son, we'll bring him in and we'll do different tests and all different things. So she done all that. And I remember going to appointments and the azathioprine, couldn't see much improvement. Blood's results are coming back. He's slowly getting worse. He's getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Yeah. So see, when you say slowly getting worse, we know he's getting thinner. Mm-hmm. What else? What other symptoms? What is he like? Weak. Yeah. Physically weak. George could just sleep for days and days and days. Just eating very, very small amount. But it wasn't that he didn't want to eat. It was actually, I just can't because of the pain. Yeah. A phrase that we've heard in the Gutsy podcast recently, in fact, it might have been when George was on, right? And young Katie McKittrick was on. I think it was Katie that said it. She said that food became her enemy. Ah, right. Because when she did eat, the effects that it had on her body were so bad and horrendous that she didn't want to eat. No, I mean, that's, you know, that's such a, so alien, that statement, because, and to put yourself in somebody's shoes that's saying something like that, well, I can't eat because that's, you know, we eat to enjoy, we
do it for pleasure, don't we?
Absolutely.
It's a fundamental need.
Yeah, and everything that goes along with that, the social aspects, we as families, and you know, when we're going out, if you're going out for a birthday, people go out for birthday dinners or celebrate or whatever, and then when somebody's turning in and saying something like food was my enemy, I think that's so powerful because it makes you, for me certainly, makes you realise, my God, how bad is this? You know, what situation are you in physically and mentally?
And that's a big indicator, is that mentally, because if you think back when I was like adamant, he's not hooked onto these steroids that caused my mum.
Yeah.
And I'd stopped people saying food's the enemy. You hook onto food, so you have that associate, you're the problem. It's not what's happening here, that's the problem.
Yeah.
But actually it's not food. There's certain things and there's certain things you can, and it has an impact and triggers, but the reality is something's happened to your body and there's nothing you can really do about it. You do need medical intervention. Yeah,
but what you said there is very insightful for me, because it's that grabbing onto something to blame, and that blame was food, that blame was the steroids,
do it naturally.
Yeah, but it's not the actual thing, something else.
It's something else.
Yeah.
And until you're ready to do that part, you'll always blame other things and you hook onto it.
That's very apparent in so many things, not just with inflammatory bowel disease.
Yeah, just life in general, just life and your full decision making.
Yeah.
Food, I remember watching George, and then my husband, so he's military background. So he came in, he's like, right, and so I'm thinking all this, like my background, I'm thinking psychological attachment to food. We're going to have problems, we're going to have eating problems here. I help him. So I'm always thinking about one step ahead. How can I get this? What can I control? What is it I can do to support? My husband's like, so he's listening to me, he's digesting it, and men in general want to fix. That's their job. I don't want to hear all the moaning, the talking, the analysing. Let's just fix it.
Yeah.
So he's like, get that drank. So it was these milkshakes. You better get them drunk. Just drink it, George. That's it.
For weight.
You need to do this. It's getting to a point now. You need to get this done. And George's like, well, I want to do that, but I can't because I feel sick. I feel unwell. So as a full family, I think it was you said that everybody in that family, as soon as you get diagnosed with Crohn's, IBD, everybody takes that on board.
Yeah, I can't claim ownership of that.
Yeah.
But I have used it many times since. It was Brandon Duffy that actually said it, who's one of the Catherine McEwan Foundation ambassadors. He said that when it's not just you that's diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, it's the full family. And I just thought that was a really profound and hard-hitting statement, because it affects everybody, which kind of leads us into that. Through this journey to get to that point, this must have put an incredible pressure on you guys as a family.
All of us.
Newborn baby. You know, I don't want to dwell on the point, you know, because it's obviously it's an emotional thing. You've not long lost your mum. George has gone through this. I mean, it's as a family unit. It must have been incredibly under pressure.
Yeah, the way to describe it is a snow globe, and it looks nice, and then you're shaking it, and that's how I felt my world was for years, until it starts to settle, and then once it starts to settle, then that's when you start to feel. Well, for me, it was more physical. I felt physically exhausted, more physical ailments, lower back pain, stomach pain, headaches. That was stress, worry, anxiety, whatever you want to label it. That's how it came out in me, was that kind of physical elements.
So basically all the stresses are manifesting themselves physically within you in different ways.
That's how it comes out with me, physically. It's how, probably because years of mastering the art of the mental part.
Yeah.
because I've had lots of kind of challenges from a young age myself. So I've mastered that, but it comes out physically. So if I start to get either sore throats, infections, and don't really look after myself physically, then I know I'm stressed. Strange, but everybody's different. And that's a psychosomatic part of stress and worry. So that's what happened with me once that snow globe started to come down. But the challenges in my family the entire time was horrendous.
Yeah.
Because you've still got the background noise of settling relationships after the loss of my mum.
Absolutely.
So you've got all that and all those dynamics, and you've still got relatives checking in and coming back, and ultimately they're offloading of their challenges. So you've got all that happening. And then you've got this newborn baby that you're still managing. And then I've got my oldest daughter who's at last year of school looking to go into uni, and you've got COVID in the mix of all this as well.
I just throw something else in.
Come on, bring it on. Do you know what I mean? So you've got all that in the mix, and you're still basically trying to swim as best as you possibly can.
You know, something that you touched on was something I've been speaking about this week, is the ability, the skill actually to say no. That's enough for me, because you've got at this point in life, if for you personally and you as a family, have got so much to deal with, so many challenges as a family. But you're still that sounding board. You're still the go-to person that people come to help them with their challenges. And you know, almost, can you take this on a little bit for me to help me and things like that? And I think it's a real skill in life to be able to go, do you know what? No, I can't do that. Or maybe not a direct chase yourself. but
there's a door when you go.
But you know, do it in a way that I think it's a self-protection. I think it's a bit of, you know, it's a bit of self-care that sometimes through life that you need to do to be able to you know, handle your own shit. You know, handle your own stuff.
And knowing where you have to put the storm doors up. You know, here's the kind of barriers, so to speak, but you know, there's a certain point not to cross, and maybe now's not the time. Maybe you need to kind of look at that yourself, kind of thing. Aye, putting those kind of boundaries in place. Yeah, boundaries is the word. Boundaries, and I think sometimes we do lose that if you're always being that go-to person. Yeah, and everybody wants a bit of you. Because that's just your character and your nature, and that's how you roll, and you thrive in that. Don't get me wrong, that's where you thrive. Yeah. It's then you question who's the people round about you that always want that bit of you. Yeah. You know, and for me, the core nucleus was my family. Yeah. So there was boundaries, so that masculinity energy came back out. Yeah, because it does, because it's got to, like it did with the steroids. It came back out when I felt, I'm feeling a bit here overwhelmed, and I always know now when my husband says, right, you need to slow down. Right, I'm what are you talking about? I don't need to slow down. I'm doing fine. And then I sit and I reflect, and that's the key. You might not get it at the time, but if you've got the ability to take a step back and just reflect and take on board what people are saying. Yeah. And that's that active listening, take on board, and then go back and say, you know what, you're right. So then I put the boundaries up, then I put the storm doors up, because our journey hadn't even started with George. Yeah. It was just to diagnose multiple NGs, multiple admissions into hospital, and then it came the time, must have been about August time, 2020, was it? Must have been 2020, yeah. Wow, because his big sister was going to be 21. And I remember going to a hospital appointment. We met the consultant, and she says, and she got George in, and I had wee on her at the time, and she went like, I'm now going to do an English accent, so don't feel offended. It's not good, Avril. That was the worst English accent I've ever heard. I know, I read this one. It's not good. I can't even do it now. There you are. I thought, and I just remember that, and George's face. So they went outside, and then they got the surgeon up. But everything that day, I seen this surgeon that I didn't know was going to be a surgeon in the lift. And I said hello. Me being me, I talked to everybody. I was talking to him. And then he comes in, I went, I just seen you in the lift. And they just laid it out. Really? your son's not well. He's really unwell.
Uh-huh.
It's not good. And that feeling inside and coming up, awful. Just, you'll never forget that.
How would you describe that? Is it even describable?
Just the feeling in your stomach and coming up and over your body. It was like a cold sweat. Because it's not the first time I've been told that. Yeah. You know, not in the capacity as a parent, but in the capacity as a daughter.
Yeah.
It's not good. What does not good mean? And then the surgeon's in. And then they're saying, well, there's one thing, we don't know if he'll survive because he's so unwell.
My God.
Or if he does survive, then we don't know what it's going to look like for him. I'm sitting there taking all this. Just me, knowing that I have to go back out there and see my son and my daughter.
That and, you know, hearing that is absolutely harrowing. I think sometimes that also the responsibility that you've got as an individual, as a parent in this instance, to tell your other loved ones, it's huge.
Massive. So he's looking at you going, I says, we probably need an operation, son. He's like, right. I says, but don't worry, I've got this. We'll be fine. Meanwhile, you're like, oh my God. My mum used to always use the analogy, I'm a duck and my legs are going 10 to the dozen, you know. But I look good.
You're looking
I'm looking good, cutting all of it. But actually, that's what was going on.
And as parents, how, I would imagine that you're naturally protecting George from a big chunk of how serious it is.
Yeah. And the only person I had to tell that it wasn't serious was my husband. So I told George, and he was working away at the time, so he's like, oh my, so he's asking all the questions that I've not asked because you're receiving that information because he wants to fix it.
Yeah.
He wants to fix it. And he says, we want George in, like, now, if we could. I says, well, let me just get home. Let me just get him home. Let me just plan and prepare him for this journey. Because this journey now, we don't know where we're going. We're on a road, and we don't know where it's going to take us.
No.
You know? Let me just, she says, right, okay, you can get admitted tomorrow. So we gets home, and I'm music on, singing properly at the, you know, and talking to George and just trying to bring, but I'm doing it for myself.
There must be like a massive amount of, I don't know, is it nervous energy?
I think it is.
Yeah,
you know how you go for an interview and you start, well, for me, if I'm really nervous, I start cracking jokes and then it's totally inappropriate and it's just, but there's that nervous energy. You ever do that?
I've been that guy.
That's how I used to deal with interviews. Oh, yep. And I like the karaoke, and I start, and they're like, this is a serious job you're coming for. So that was me in the car.
So hang on a minute. We just need to come back to something you said there, Avril. So in this serious interview, and being in the profession that you are,
senior manager, like clinical nurse manager of all this, and I'm cracking jokes about going to karaoke.
I like the karaoke. What is your karaoke song?
Mustang Sally.
Really?
Yes. Not in tune in the slightest.
Who cares?
But it's great.
But it's a bit
good release.
It's get up and enjoy yourself and having a crack. Just Mustang Sally. Any other?
Mustang Sally is probably Or REM is another good one as well.
What one?
It went out my head.
The Man in the Moon?
No, what's another one?
Oh, do you know what?
It'll come to me as a...
Shiny Happy People.
Shining happy people holding... That's it.
You're right about that tune.
That's it. I hope cut this part. Don't do this.
Grant, that's absolutely staying in. Would you agree? Yes. Brilliant. You'll put a wee soundtrack on at the end and maybe...
on replay. Do.
Put a donk behind it. That's what the main say. So right, sorry, we digress.
Yes.
To go back to a very serious topic.
In the car.
Covering your You get this nervous energy because things have went really quite south.
Yeah, yep. Knowing that the next day I'm taking George in to hospital, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be. For us all, for him, for me, for my daughters, for my husband, I don't know.
And is Big George away?
He's away, yeah. So he comes back.
You're dealing that yourself.
Yeah.
You're getting that news yourself.
Yeah.
You've not got Big George to bounce it off, but he's on his way back.
He's en route back. And then you're everywhere you're thinking. So you're driving and you're distracting yourself with music and talking and just all that. But in your head is somewhere else, and it's thinking, right, how's this going to play out?
I know you've got. I mean, are you thinking? Well, if you use the analogy of roads, what roads you're going on, and are you thinking all the different roads that could go down?
Yep.
Obviously, one being absolutely horrendous.
Worst, yeah. Yep.
But that being one of them.
Because you think this is the worst thing that's going to happen, and then, by God, something else comes up to trump that, doesn't it? You're like, well, I thought that was the worst.
Aye.
This is even getting worse. And then the next, it even gets worse. You know, all that, and you're like, ah. And that's why it's so important to live for the here and now. Because what you think's worse now, you don't know. It might be worse later on. It might not be.
Yeah.
So it's loads of life's lessons along the way. But yeah, that was really, really tough. And so we spoke to family, spoke to his big sister. Wee one, she doesn't really know what's going on. And then George comes back, Big George comes back, and that preparation of getting wee George to hospital. And see that day, I was supposed to go in the morning. I didn't. I ta'en him at, I think it was after tea. Must have been about 6:30 at night.
You just couldn't let him go?
I could not let him go. We even went to the shop before we went. I says, we'll get a scratch card. Totally impulsive energy, like, let's just avoid everything that's happening in the world right now.
Aye.
We'll get a scratch card and we'll win millions, George, and we'll not have to go to hospital, you know. And we got a scratch card, and I'll never forget going in, and he's with me. We're in the, you know, and I says, oh, I'll have that one, please. I went, what one do you think? And the guy behind the counter turned round and says, can't sell you them. And I went, why? He says, purchase by proxy. I'll never forget this. And I went, what? And he says, you asked him what card he wants, and you could be giving it to him. And at that point, that anger comes out. You're like, are you for real? You can see how people that are going through so much stress and pressure, and it's the receptionist or the waiter or the or the person in the call handler gets that aggression or gets that because they just asked one question and that man was doing his job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you really? I couldn't hold myself. Are you really asking me about this? Are you for real? And the guy's going, yeah. We just had a training course like 2 weeks ago about it, and he heaves, and I thought,
but do you know something? That's the thing that in life, when you see people reacting in a way, like for example your reaction, or maybe that the receptionist just like, somewhere's been pretty shit to you, or their attitude, or whatever, you never know what's going on.
No.
You never know. So having a reacting to it, or having a mindset, or having you just take a wee step back, because you don't know what's happening in that person's life.
Yeah.
You at this point you're going through the worst time of your life.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of get that scratch card.
And the scratch card, it doesn't matter. But you're like, this was going to be fun, getting the scratch card, and you have conquered that. Just awful. And he was doing his job.
I know.
And I remember, and I suppose for wee George, it'd be interesting if he still remembers it. I'm going to ask him that actually when I go back. He probably does. Like for him seeing, well, my mum's held this together, and she's lost her shit, basically, over a scratch card.
Aye.
Just bizarre.
And he might not even have been able to put the two and two together.
No, but maybe now he would, but then...
Yeah, he would maybe go, it's a scratch card, Mum.
Get a grip, Mum. What planet are you on?
No, but I think it's a really interesting insight into your mindset as well, because he was meant to go in the morning, and you've done absolutely everything that day
Yep.
to avoid going.
Yep.
Down to the point of getting a scratch card.
Even that was another delay. If you think about
what
it.
I mean.
That's
what I mean. You're putting off and putting off and putting off. Mm-hmm. You're the inevitable. Because at one point you're going to need to let go.
To follow through.
But I think that's an incredible insight, because you're a mental health professional. You know how the mind works.
Yep.
And even you, like if you were to look at one of your patients, or maybe somebody you didn't know, or what, and you looked at that, you'd be going,
avoidance.
But you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
For all the right reasons, and as a mother.
But it shows you everybody's human. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you've got, how much an expert you are. The key here is reflect and think, and actually we do respond in the way that we're default setted.
Yeah.
And it takes a hard work and hard effort to reprogram that.
Yeah. So, did you get the scratch card?
No, he wouldn't sell us it. He would not sell us that scratch card. I could have been a millionaire right now.
Can you imagine if the next person did get the scratch and it was the big winner? Can you imagine?
I'd be livid. No. But it just shows you. So I remember, and that kept our conversation the entire journey going, I can't purchase by proxy. What is that all about? And I remember going to him, do you know my son's going into hospital just now and you're refusing me a scratch card? And then it was like, breathe. I'll look at him. Right, let's just get out of the shop.
Mum, you're up, you're ready.
Oh, I know, you're such an embarrassing mum. The wee guy in the co-op was just, but we got him through. We get some admitted into hospital, and that's the start of our journey. Months and months he was in hospital.
So, Avril, you've got to the point, and George is in the hospital for a long time, isn't he?
Yeah, months.
So what was his surgery?
So he...
Was it one surgery or was it multiple surgeries?
One surgery.
One surgery.
So they had to hook him up. We managed to get him out. So they put an NG tube in, and we managed to get him out for his sister's 18th birthday party. And then they decided they had to hook him up to PN nutrition.
Right.
So he was hooked up. So he got a central line put in, and he had to slowly be given food and nutrients balanced.
Yeah.
All the time, and that was for about 3-4 months in hospital. They said that at any time if he dips or his bloods or anything, because I think his full liver, kidneys were all starting to shut down.
Aye.
Everything was shutting down because he didn't get the nutrients.
Yeah.
And I can look back and say, but I delayed treatment, I should have got him steroids. But the reality is, look at his recovery now. It happened the way it had to happen. And I have to make peace with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that for you as a parent, is that difficult? Have you made peace with that?
I've made peace with it, yeah. Because you just look at him. I've made peace with it. But trust me, when you're sitting in that hospital and he's hooked up for months, and I was adamant, right, we're getting you out. We're going out for the day. We'll get you home for the day. Honor needs to see you. Your big sister everybody needs part of you. And I had to create a home in that hospital for him.
Yeah. How did you do that?
I had, and we lost his dog in between all that. His dog died.
Oh my God.
In between all of that. So his ashes came into the hospital and sat in this big Buddha sitting there. We got him games, music was on, throw in the bed, trying to really just personalise, because they're really clinical, these rooms.
Yeah.
I mean, really clinical. And you're sitting and there's no windows in the room he was in. Mm. There is a small window, but it looks out into an atrium or something. Not outdoor space, like no fresh air.
This is Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's like no fresh air or anything. And his bed is facing a wall.
Andy?
And actually where he was, you're watching people walk past, but everybody's in their own ice. There's no community, there's no conversation.
Yeah. And
a lot of your nurses came in just to do tasks.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things that we've actually heard of feedback on the hospital. I mean, it's an unbelievable place, but one of the things that did come back, and that privacy is a great thing with your own room and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but also, no having that community with being with other people in a ward.
Yep.
Was a lot of people said that was a bit of a negative aspect.
Oh, definitely. And that was a big push years ago with the design of hospitals. So Nightingale room, Suites Nightingale, which was like 6-bedded dorms, was Florence Nightingale. That was the nurse in. She could do it. She was an army nurse and she looked at everybody. They stopped that because they felt people needed their privacy. And that's how all new hospitals were designed. Individual rooms. Very rare. You maybe get a 4-bedded, but very rare you would get that. But they never had the impact of mental health on people. Never thought about that at all. And how it built camaraderie, and we're going through the same thing, but also helped with isolation, because if you didn't talk, you could watch. You could watch that relative coming in. How many times I remember going to see my gran in hospital, and it was the 6 Nightingale room. You'd walk in, she'll say, "She's going for her operation tomorrow. How did you speak to her?" "No, but I watched her." And her daughter, she's from Australia, she came on. "Did you speak to her?" "No, but I watched her." You know? But you don't have any of that.
There was a ward gossip, wasn't there? I know.
My gran knew everything that was happening in that ward.
Right.
But you didn't get that if you're in a single room.
No.
You don't get any of that. And that's where nurses are so important. That's when your doctors coming in, your domestic staff, they're all really important, because that could be the only conversation you have in a day.
That's unbelievable.
And some of them are so focused on the task because they're stressed.
Yeah, because the workload's so high, isn't it? And they've got I don't want to say your number. That's unfair, but they've got a lot to go through.
Yeah. So what they do is actually, I've got these rooms to clean, or I've got all these IVs to put up. They become... So that had an impact. So I tried to create as much as possible a home environment for George. We had music on in the room. We didn't sit on our phones.
Great.
Not sitting on phones. We're going to talk. And board games. And it was his dad's birthday, so we celebrated his birthday in the hospital and we got him out. Pictures, just everything possible. I think we took over. I even put a poster up on the wall. I could see some of their faces, like George, like that Warhammer at the time and different stuff. I was putting posters on the wall. Some folk come. Oh. And it did take, I think some of the nurses were really, really good. Really good. And they say, "I love coming in here," because you talk. So they're experiencing as well when they go into some rooms, parents on their phone. And I get that. You're trying to switch off and you're trying to deal and it consumes you. Or the kids on their phone or the kids sleeping. Where actually the nurse just comes in and does their task.
Yeah.
If there's no platform or opportunity for conversation, then it's a lonely place for the staff and for the people that are there.
That's a brilliant insight, because you don't think of that, because it's using your phone, whether it's in that environment or elsewhere. It's a kind of get out, isn't it?
Oh, it's a way to escape, isn't it?
The other thing, I remember going on the bus years ago, whether it was going to school or whatever, and you used to talk to the people. Mm-hmm. You know, you had the conversations maybe at the bus stop. You've had conversations when you're on the bus and stuff. You don't get that now because everybody just looks at their phone.
No.
And get into that environment, where the hospital environment, where especially when you've got that isolation, those conversations are really, really important.
Yeah, really important. More so, because that's your contact to the outside world.
What so you I mean, what you're going through is absolutely harrowing as a family. Is there any advice that you can give to anybody that's watching, or indeed listening, that's maybe going through something similar, or could potentially? Is there anything that jumps out at you from an advice perspective that you would give to the other parents?
I think in relation to the hospital journey, that kind of part, or I think the hospital journey is to go in as if you're going to visit the very first time you've been in that hospital room, where your son, your daughter, whoever it may be, have a look about the room and actually say, is this similar to his bedroom or her bedroom?
Yeah.
Is this, and it'll never will be, but how can I create that?
It's home comforts.
And that's what they say, a house is a house until you make it a home.
Yeah.
And it's the people that's in it, and it's those kind of things that make it feel better and take away, they need the part to be mindful, whether it be movies, reading a book or on their phone, they need that bit. But how much is that getting used? How much is that actually, I'm just going to avoid, and I'm going to immerse myself in this mobile phone.
Yeah.
I'm going to immerse myself in this iPad. or I'm going to immerse myself in this computer game. And in that, I've got all these emotions deep down that I'm not really dealing with, but that computer game's going to, and as we talked earlier on, we hook onto something, don't we?
Yeah.
So that anger's going to come out in that game, isn't it? And I'm going to then smash that TV because I'm getting really frustrated with the game. It's not really the game. It's actually what's going on, but I'm refusing to avoid. Just like I avoided it by keeping George home all day and going for the scratch card.
By introducing him to gambling.
Exactly. But you know, it's that would be my advice, is take a step back, have a look at the environment and control what you can.
Yeah.
So I could bring a throw in, and if the nurses didn't like it, or I could change it. I can just keep washing it. They don't have to launder it. I could put a poster up on the wall.
Yeah.
You know, I can bring the music, bring the energy, talk about what's here and now, get out for some fresh air. You don't have to stay in and be a patient.
Yeah.
And that's where my frustration with the word patient comes from. He was a patient while I was in hospital, but he's still a person.
Yeah.
And he's George.
Yeah, I think that's something that as an organisation, you know, we try to kind of, it's a bit set within our ethos. It's like, you know, your condition shouldn't define you. You're your own person. Your condition's absolutely part of you. Unfortunately, it's not going away. Mm-hmm. And you know how you deal with that. But you're George.
You're George. You're a son. You're a brother. You know.
Yeah, and you know, we got to know quite a lot about George recently when we recorded another Gutsy podcast, and he's a super talented guy. You know, he's got a lot to give, and you know, he's absolutely got that attitude that, you know, yeah, he's inflammatory bowel disease is part of him, who he is, but he's definitely driving the bus.
Yeah,
he's driving the bus,
and he's embracing that being part of him. Yeah, because I always ask the question, and you see when you're in the darkest moments, and I remember that day when it was his day for surgery, so I had to go home because mind, I've got this wee one who's just starting school. You know, so she's at play school and she's starting, and I had to keep balance for her, because if not, I'll have more problems.
I think that's an interesting thing as well. You know, and it's something that we spoke about. We had a family day recently. A lot of young kids in the teenage years were probably around George's age when he was in hospital. A lot of them, and it's how it affects the siblings. You know, we spoke about how it's affecting you and Big George. But, you know, how's that affecting the siblings? I mean, it's a natural thing is that the focus comes off them, because all the focus is on trying to be there for the, you know, for the kid that's gone through so much trauma, and that must be a really difficult thing to balance. And how does that? You know, you've got an older daughter and a much younger daughter.
Yeah.
That's a really tough job.
Oh, it was really difficult because my oldest, she was away to uni and she left home up to Aberdeen. That full year, she just went hell for leather out partying. She was out partying. Then you would get a phone call. I fell and twisted my knee. Oh, I've hurt myself, Mum. Oh, I've got a sore throat. Oh, I've got COVID. So you're worrying, stress, but then I've mastered being able to, sometimes you're responsive and you're like, what are you doing? And then you go, right, breathe. How is she managing with this? How is she dealing with this? That's her way of dealing with it.
I can relate to that.
That was her way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm avoiding what's here at home and I'm going out. Hi, everybody.
I'm embracing the student life.
Nightclubs. I think she knew every nightclub possible in Aberdeen. You know? And that part of that student life, but I mean, to the excess.
Yeah.
So that's how she coped with it. First year, and then reined it back, because she's got me as a mum. You need to rein it back. So there's a balance there. And then the wee one was more emotional and more really attaching to me.
Yeah.
So for instance, Dad still had to work.
Of course.
Because I couldn't work. So
you're with the NHS at this time?
I'm still with the NHS. So I took some time off. So she would come in the bed beside me. So those kind of moments would be, so although your full focus does go on that kid, then it's hard to balance it, but you take the moments of, well, come on, we'll watch a movie tonight.
Yeah.
And then that's a special moment.
Of course.
And I remember my mum doing that actually when we were younger. I remember my mum had no money for the heating. And my dad had died when I was 17. We were really young, but prior to that, my mum and dad really worked hard. And we didn't have any money till my dad got his wages. So I don't know. All my memory was Mum says, oh, come on, we'll get in bed and we'll tell stories. And it was a ginger bottle with hot water. And that's why we kept warm. 3 years in the bed. And she would tell stories. And then my dad would be out working and then he'd come back with the money and then, oh, heating's on, this is going, oh, we're good to go. Do you know what I mean? But at that, I never seen that we didn't have money for the heating. What I seen was, oh, it was great, I got stories in bed. Right. And we tell stories and we done this and we all giggled and we all laughed. We're all in the one bed to keep warm. It's bizarre. But that's what you do as a parent.
Yeah.
So those moments with your kids, different with the oldest one because she was just going to do party and she had to do that. But the weeest one, if I can make fun the time we've got, although I'm absolutely exhausted, and maybe 10 minutes into the movie, whether it be Frozen or I was sleeping, you know, but she liked these stories and she loved that.
Not singing along.
No. And sometimes I did, you know, and I would wake up halfway through and then I would sing with her. But actually she was in the bed beside me. So it was those moments that you just kept alive.
Brilliant. I mean, when we were speaking about the doing the podcast and we were kind of running through it and stuff like that, a word that you used and a kind of a story you used really kind of hit home with me when we spoke about it. You were talking about the lioness.
Yeah. It's what was it I said about that protection, isn't it? Yeah. And this is how I always think, like my husband, I'll never forget the time I was driving, crying, going to get George for his surgery, coming back. Obviously my husband seen me kind of broken. I've never really seen that. But he felt my family, and he said that, he went, Avril, and I could see him breaking. I've never seen Big George really emotional. Yeah. And he says, my family's falling apart and I don't know what to do. I can't fix it.
My God.
And I looked at him and I remember just going, I've not got time for this. I've not got time for your emotions. And he looked at me and he says, you're not listening to what I'm saying. My family's falling apart. And it was up in the bedroom and I went, you're right. So you come to the hospital because my priority is the kids. And he says, I'm telling you, we need to really pull together, and he couldn't fix it. And if you think about it, I'm juggling absolutely everything. And sometimes you can look at your husband or your partner and go, you're a lazy guy, you're not doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Oh, he's working away.
But he's working and he's doing what he can.
Yeah.
But you as a lioness, if you look at the lioness, they go out, they hunt, they find prey, they feed their family. That's what they do. The lion lies at the back, pride and just sunning it all. But most of animals, the female goes out and does the work. But it's to feed their family.
Yeah.
Where the lion comes and protects everybody when needed. And that's what was happening. That's how I see it anyway. That's how I was happening. I was just trying to protect everybody and keep going and doing the job that I needed to do.
And done it very well, I have to say.
Still doing it, still learning.
No, of course. But I mean, with everything that's, let's face it, going against you at that time.
The tide
through that journey, the tide was absolutely against you. The tide wasn't. It was a tsunami, really.
That was actually
realistic.
Yeah, and then just another thing, and then my wee dog. So we had 2 dogs, and Harris was older, wee cocker spaniel. We had him for about 10 years.
Yeah,
and that night before, it was the night before George's surgery. Or was it a couple of days? I can't remember now. Everything rolls into one. But I remember getting up and going, I can't hear the dogs barking. I can't hear them at the kitchen door. Something's not right here. And avoidance. I'm not getting out of my bed. And the wee one's beside me because George was in hospital. And I'm going, I'm not getting out of my bed. I'm not getting out of my bed. Don't know what I'm going to go and see. And I thought, no, I have to go. And I kept her in bed and I goes down the stairs. My wee dog had passed away.
Ah, bless.
Where the other dog had sat with him and started barking, and I broke my heart. But I was like, anything else you can throw?
I know that in itself is heartbreaking. But then you've got that release where all the other pressures.
You've got everything. It's just a mixture of everything.
Because And you need that. You need that release as well.
I
was speaking to somebody yesterday, and I don't think they were in a good place the last couple of weeks. And we were having a wee chat, and just make sure he was okay and stuff like that. And he went, I just locked myself away and had a wee great for the weekend, and they're fine.
You do?
And he was very, very open about it, where a lot of people want to be, and it was quite privileged that he'd be quite open with me and saying that. But I just thought it was a really nice way and a really honest way that, sometimes as a human being you need that release, and it's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine to have that release, and it's fine not to have, it's fine to have bad days, and it's fine to express yourself in that way, because when you get that release, it can kind of clear things up a wee bit.
Yeah. And it's okay not to be okay.
I know it sounds like an old cliche that now, doesn't it?
But the reality is, it's okay. It's when it goes on for days, then maybe it's not okay not to be okay, but it's that.
Yeah, but it's that reaching out for help and keeping it within yourself. And that's, I think, that's the next part of that journey that people, for me anyway, looking at it, have to, can learn. Mm-hmm. You can ask for help. It's fine to ask for help. People would rather you ask for help.
Yep.
Rather than you keep it on inside and whatever brews in there, and that can come out, as we know, in so many.
Well, look at how it came out with the gentleman that was selling what I wanted to buy a scratch card from. Do you know what I mean? Look at that, it happens all the time. Yeah. And that's why the big campaign for being kind is huge. Yeah,
definitely. Absolutely, because you just never know what's going on with somebody.
No, you just don't know.
Back to our George. So, he spent a long time in hospital.
Yep.
He's not at school.
3-4 months, not at school.
3-4 months, a long time. He's got out. So what's the next part of the journey for George and you guys as a family?
I think it's just George has unleashed a talent that he's got, and he's found it. I believe, I don't know, he's still on this journey, but I believe this has been his path. And at the time, if somebody told me that, I'd be like, jog on. I think I'll change it to another. But actually, this is a life-changing experience for him. And I think that's what happens when you're diagnosed with a lifelong condition.
Yeah.
You either embrace it or you continue to fight it.
Yep.
And do destruction along the way if you continue to fight it.
Yeah, and that self-destructive tendencies is a natural thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I can probably relate to that myself, going through challenges that I've had in my life, but for, we definitely hear that. But I think getting to know George over the last few years and spending a bit of time with him recently, he definitely embraces it, and it's such an admirable quality.
Yeah.
It sounds quite cheesy. Oh, I've embraced it, and you're like, oh, do fuck off.
You do get folk you're like,
yeah, blah blah blah. Yeah. But I need to put money in the swear jar now. 5 up. But he has, because it's not a thing. It is a thing, but it's his thing, and he has embraced it.
Yeah.
And he's cleared what he wants to do. He's gone for his 6th year at school. He's got a career path that he wants. Mm-hmm. That career path will be nothing because he's going to be a rock star.
I know.
I believe he's got a singer for his band now. So no, he's a very talented musician as well. So you guys came through the other side of that, and he's really went from strength to strength, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
His health's good. What's worked for him?
So what's worked for him is taking control of his diet.
Brilliant.
Keeping a balance in stress, which is really hard because you're just a teenager.
Yeah.
And stress comes at every avenue, and he's still got a lot of stress. I remember him stressing about a girl that liked him, and all and that's all still. So there's a lot of things there. There's a lot he's still got to go. Right. And all I can do is help him build that toolbox. That's it. And knowing that he's got me and his dad and his sister, and he's got all of us to help him. But yeah, I can see his talent. He needs to now just go and unleash it and see if it can build more and whatever it may be.
Well, I think he's on a phenomenal path.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot more. He didn't go through this for no reason. He's got a lot of potential there.
Absolutely.
And as it does everybody.
Yeah, I know. But some people don't realise that potential within themselves. I think he maybe realised it in a little way.
He's getting a wee bit of glimmer, and that's what's good to see.
Yeah.
Like my oldest daughter, she's still, what is it someone says, you go and you wait for something to come to you. Mm-hmm. You wait, it should come. It's not going to happen. If you've got a talent, it will come out at some point, but you need to be receptive to it and you need to receive it.
Yeah.
You know, my oldest daughter always wanted to be a PE teacher, sports. I remember PE always saying to her, you could get Arden to run up and down a hall and she'll make it fun and she'll do it with all her effort. You know, and she thought, that's where I'm going. And then my mum became unwell and then she opened up to the kind of medical type world. Yeah. And she says, I want to be a paramedic. She likes drama. And then she went for interviews for paramedic and she had the grades, but the interview, she didn't get it. I was like, you're not meant to get it. I knew where she'd go. And then she went, nursing's came up. I suppose I'll go for that. I'm not too sure. Look at her now. Placement in A&E. She's got a job in A&E in Glasgow.
She's still got the drama.
She loves the drama, loves all that. But they've found her. The niche has found her. Yeah. And I think with George going through all this journey, he sees it. She's still to see it.
Yeah, but
it's bizarre.
No, but some things, people bound a bit for a long time to find it. Some people get it earlier. But the great thing is for me, most importantly, that George is going through a brilliant bit of health.
Oh yeah,
he's in a great place.
Yep.
Especially after everywhere he's been. So, God, it sounds like a fan club here. Anyway, say something.
Campaign for George.
say something bad about him.
Okay, listen, he's had these dark moments,
of course, and
it's quite common with guys and young guys is they're in their head too much.
Yeah. I mean, going through that, and I know that before we move on, for George, I'm bored talking about him now.
I know.
That I think something that's important to touch on is the mental health aspect of that, because I know that you guys are naturally and quite rightly protecting him for how serious he is. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, there was a road there that was the worst road, and to a certain extent the medical teams were preparing you for the potential of the worst. You didn't know what that was going to be like. You're protecting him for that. He's sitting with absolute trust in you guys to make the decisions that are best for him. But weirdly, as a mother and also as a mental health professional, where do you think that he sat with that?
Difficult. I think George, we protected and shielded him from quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which probably helped his mental health, I would say. So maybe I was too focused on the mental health part. Maybe.
Maybe not.
You don't know. I think George, I think he just has trust in me and his dad. Yeah. That will do him right, and so does we honour. Yeah. We're my oldest, and this is the difference between siblings. The oldest grows up with you as a parent. The youngest is brought up by you, and there's the difference. George and Honor believe what mum and dad say. They don't challenge it, they don't question it, they believe it. And as they start to get a character, they do question it. But ultimately, if dad says this is how you fish or this is what you do, then that dad says it, that's how you do it. We're the oldest, you should it. I don't know if you do that. And then there's a lot of toing and throwing and because they grow up with you as a parent, but the two are brought up by you. Yeah, completely different.
You don't know what you're doing.
You've not got a scout to do. And they're developed, and then you're like, I shouldn't have done that. Actually, I've taken that away from them. Maybe I should have done that. It's because World War II, where you feel a bit more confident and I've got this, I can make the decisions.
Bit of swagger.
Yeah, you got a bit of sass about you. And I think that's the difference when it came to George. He had trust in us completely that we would make the right decisions for him. And that's scary If it was our Arden, my oldest,
but that's I think that's really fortunate, because unfortunately, not everybody's got that unit around them, you know, and that can be really difficult. So
and that is, yeah. But see, if you've not got that as a parent, you'll find it in someone else.
Yeah,
kids are amazing. What does it say? Up to the age of 13, that's when your toolbox and your core beliefs will be developed,
right? And
that's through your relationships. And where's your first relationships? In that house. And if it's not for mum and dad, you might get some bad things, you might get some good things. It'll be for your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, the person that your next door neighbour that you always admired.
Yeah.
You'll find it. Kids they really find it. And that's where teachers are so important. That's where nurses are so important. That's where role models are so important in kids' life up to the age of 13.
What happens after that?
Well, then life experiences kick in. After that, they're old enough to go out into the world, and they'll learn sometimes the hard way.
Yeah.
But they'll still learn.
Sometimes that's the best way.
Yeah. They'll still learn. But you always come back to those core beliefs that you've developed up to 13-year-old. You always come back to that. And they're usually the skeletons in the closet of, I'm not a good person, or... You know, that's those core beliefs, and every decision, this is what I work on anyway as a professional, every decision and choice you make is based on your core beliefs. And you'll always find, there's life and challenges and event, and your core beliefs start to change and shape a bit because you've been through things, and make you a better person and builds resilience. But I'm a firm believer of those core beliefs. That's where we need to work in every sort of therapy or whatever.
Abused in life in general, which leads us on.
Yes.
Very nicely.
Smooth transition there. Did you see that?
What do they call it? Segue. Segue. Oh my God, this is almost professional.
Smooth like butter.
Oh, there's he's singing again. Oh my God. Right, we'll cut that one out.
Definitely cut that.
So, Avril, putting on your other head now, which I know you've kind of touched on anyway, and we've kind of spoken about it. So we met over a good bit over 3 years ago now, where young George had missed a lot of school.
Lots of school.
And he made the application to the McEwan Foundation to he applied for the scholarship programme.
Yep.
Which we accepted. Accepted, and we were delighted to have him on board, and that's where I met you.
Yes, I know. I remember the phone call I got from you, and my phone went, I was in the shop, and I don't know what we were getting, school clothes or something like that. And I went, oh, hello. And you went, hi, it's Derek McEwan here from McEwan Foundation. I was like, oh, yes. And you, I was like, he's been successful for the scholarship. And I just, no way, thank you this is amazing. And that was, it's like things are starting to turn around.
Yeah.
Starting to turn a corner. And little did I know that there was a big community there, and things would change completely for everybody from that phone call.
Aye, and it wasn't just a scholarship.
I know.
A lot changed through that. So I remember very, very vividly. So I think we brought you guys in. I think it wasn't. Do you know what it was? If my memory serves me right, it's a bit hazy. Get a certain vintage, and your memory's not as good. We brought you guys in, and it was the first time we had invited anybody in after COVID, and we got you guys in as new families for the scholarship to meet the scholars, and we had some of the kind of previous scholars who'd maybe either done it online during COVID or prior to that, and just kind of have a chat and get to meet us, get to know about the McEwan Foundation, and understand a bit about the scholarship. And I had spoken to like you and another few parents and said, we were going to start to introduce these support services. One of the support services was just mental health, and da. And that was great, and it was great to have a wee platform for the first time in ages. And I always get excited meeting new families and you know, seeing how we can help them within our inflammatory bowel disease community. And that was that, and I didn't really think much of it. And it was funny because I'm sure it was Vicky Garrick that I'd spoken to the day before, And it was literally the day before. And I says, look, we've got this sign off for the board, and we want to introduce mental health support services. And would you recommend anybody that could possibly work with the foundation to do that? The ideal scenario is they've been in mental health support for a long time. You know, they're putting, you know, they're helping people with therapy and so on. But the added kind of caveat in it is if they knew a bit about inflammatory bowel disease, if you knew about Crohn's and colitis, that would be absolutely perfect. And she laughed at me.
Did she?
She did. She laughed at me. Not for the first time, and certainly not for the last time. She absolutely laughed at me and almost took the piss out of me a wee. Well, she did definitely. You're not asking for much there, Derek. You're wanting a top-notch mental health professional that knows a bit about Crohn's and colitis. Pretty few and far between, but I'll keep it in mind. And that was that. And I kind of went away a wee bit despondent, but always, it'll happen. And what happened was, you guys live a little bit far out.
Yeah.
So you were first to do the filming that day, and I walked you down the stairs just to say goodbye, and you said to me, "You know what I do, don't you?" And I thought to myself, I've just met you.
I've not got a clue.
I've not got a clue what you do. and I didn't expect it to come out your mouth. And it was like, I'm a mental health therapist. And it was like, I swear to God, it was a moment in my life.
Right. Oh.
And I thought, you'll hear people say, I put that into the universe. I manifested that. I manifested that.
What's it in the books? How to Get Rich Quick? Manifest it?
Yeah. Buy a scratch card.
I'm buying a scratch card.
I manifested it to the universe. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what manifest meant. But anyway, and you were there, and she said, I can do it. I might be able to support that. And I thought to myself, hang on a minute. Jesus, this one here just telling me that she's a mental health professional. She's got her own practice. She could help support the work of the foundation. And her boy's got Crohn's disease. She knows a bit about. Oh, no way!
How did that happen?
No, but I'm a skeptic. I went. Oh, yeah. So this is a setup.
Oh, Jeremy Beadle time, right? What's happening here?
You're showing your age, Jeremy Beadle.
I know.
I thought this is too good to be true. So it turns out it wasn't too good to be true. And we, at the same time, had a family reach out to us to see if we could help, and we hadn't really kicked off the programme.
That's right.
Fact, we hadn't kicked the programme off at all.
No, it was just a thought, wasn't it?
It was a thought, and we kind of bounced it off a wee bit, and then I think we started September 21. 21,
yeah.
September 21. So, for those who are not familiar with the service and what we can offer, what do you do, Avril? What do you do?
So we offer one-to-one therapy for people that have a diagnosis of IBD. Sessions could be 6 to 8 sessions. Sometimes we're a bit flexible in that because, as I said, everybody's got a lot of things that they either compact down, and you would hate the thought of opening that up and then saying, right, that's your 6 or 8 sessions finished, goodbye. So it's tailor-made, but on average it's 6 to 8.
Yeah.
And it's one-to-one therapy with me, and we just start to talk about your journey, provide a safe space to talk about it, and really expand that toolbox that's already there, but also maybe identify some stuff that might need to be moved out.
Yeah.
And give a different perspective and give you some tools to start moving forward.
Now, we obviously, we can't talk about individual cases and things like that, but there's been some incredible outcomes, hasn't there?
Oh, yeah, huge. I think the biggest ones, and it'd be interesting, the amount of people that have really toyed with the idea of ending their life.
Yeah.
That's how serious this illness is, and I can't remember the statistics. What is it? 1 in 100 of people suffer mental health. 25% of that increases when you have a lifelong condition, a disability, because that's what it is. So that, I don't know, do the maths, that's going to increase that.
Yeah, I think this the stats currently for inflammatory bowel disease, our community's at least twice as likely to have mental health issues. Whatever they may be, whether it's anxiety, depression, as you touched on, kind of serious suicidal thoughts, and we're there to help that.
Yeah,
most
and
definitely.
it's quite a lot of people that's came through, and it's got to the point where, yep, the IBD's been part of it, and it makes life harder. You know, it makes it harder. Can you imagine going through the journey I've been through with George, and I had IBD? It wouldn't. I've already got the problems there. They're already there.
Yeah.
All those challenges were there. Losing my dog, my mum having a baby, my son being unwell, my daughter going crazy in her first year at uni. You know, all those challenges were there. But if I had IBD as well, oh my God.
Yeah.
So it amplifies it. It makes it harder because your day-to-day needs are more.
Yeah, but it amplifies it physically and mentally.
Yeah. And look at me. My stress came out in physical symptoms.
Yeah.
And I don't have IBD. So if you've got IBD and you are someone that deals with stress and it comes out in physical, then that's just horrendous, isn't it?
It's absolutely unimaginable. Now, as I say, that's us next month, 3 years.
3 years in September.
Next month, 3 years. Now, I don't know the actual numbers. Should I? I don't know.
And I'm actually going, I should actually know the numbers.
I think we've had over 100 people through.
Oh yeah, more probably. We've had must be about 150 inquiries and referrals.
Yeah.
And there's a streamline, because there's some people that's not appropriate. Yeah. There's some people out of sector, and that's fine. But for that amount of people to reach out, and over 100 people that have successfully, in therapy or successfully completed, is huge. And outcomes, just on Friday there was a discharge, and I got a lovely bouquet of flowers and a box of chocolates and a card saying, I think I did take a photograph. You have changed my life in so many ways, and thank you for allowing me to become the better version of me. I mean, that's brilliant. I went, I never changed your life. That's another thing is, so how do I donate to the charity? How do I do this? How do I do that?
McEwan Foundation.com if anybody's watching.
And I say, just go back to the website, and if you need anything, if you're struggling, I'll link it. But that just shows you this service is invaluable, because everybody I've been through has went through their GP, have went through psychology services in the NHS, and a high proportion of them says it just wasn't for me. Whether it wasn't the right time, or some people just didn't get access at all. Yeah,
I think one of the things, and the kind of certainly one of the catalysts for starting the service was that was the feedback first and foremost, because we want to tailor our service to what people need, and that quality feedback was that they couldn't access it, they couldn't access the service, or it was taking too long, and we understand the pressures of the NHS a little bit, and we really wanted to be there quicker, to be that quick, because I think it's a big step that someone actually reaches out.
Huge.
That can never ever, when we're talking about like this, somebody reaching out for mental health support, can't be underestimated. The first step in actually doing that is colossal.
It's huge. And some people, and that's where those 160 referrals, some people reached out, and then when the phone call happened, some people just didn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
And
because they're not ready.
That's that pre-contemplation stage of change.
Yeah.
So that's good. And sometimes we bounce back and forward in pre-contemplation quite a lot. And that's why when someone decides to have the phone call, you're like, you're in the journey, this is really good. And sometimes if the clinic's full, we only do one a week, but we do other things as well. We do face-to-face one a week, but we also do online. But what we do then is, if they can't, I can't see them.
Not one appointment.
No. But multiple appointments.
Multiple
appointments. But if I can't see them in a timely manner, depending what's happening, I'll do the phone call, because I have to keep that engagement.
Yeah.
And preparation, and that's what's missing, because we're saying NHS, big waiting lists. You're on a waiting list and you're forgotten about it. Nobody keeps reaching in and checking in, because actually asking for help and going to a GP and saying, you know what, I'm struggling, I need somebody to help. And that's great to take the referral forward, but what happens then? There's no contact. And what we do in a very timely fashion through the McEwan Foundation is, we get the referral, within a day, 2 days, you get an email. to say when suitable for a quick chat.
Yeah.
And that conversation starts. Some people are not ready for that, and that's fine.
Yep.
Some people are. And even just that conversation, they feel a weight being lifted. And then another call just to check in before the appointment to make sure they're coming, make sure we're still on the same track, nothing's changed. That's what we do differently.
Yeah, and I have to say, it's something I'm immensely proud of in what we do, and hearing some of the outcomes. I mean, just like people going back to work, going back to university, getting at the house. I mean, like it's such stuff that we take so for granted in life that, you know, you're helping with that to give them, you know, you talk about the toolbox, the skills to do that they're finding so difficult, and it's, you know, long may it continue. And before we finish up, Avril, tell us a wee bit about what the future holds with that service within the foundation, because I know that we're growing it quite a lot. You're working with our Director of Patient Services, Vicky Garrick, on growing the service, and it's really exciting. So what can we expect in the near future? So
it's really exciting. I've had a few meetings with Vicky, and I'm excited and loads of ideas. Don't know how we get to that, and that's where Vicky's coming in. She's saying, right, we can come up with a plan and we'll get to that. Yeah. So we're looking at putting a survey out pretty soon, but it's about support groups.
Yep.
Big, and then younger kids.
Yeah.
Really looking at younger kids and how, because they can't articulate their emotions, because cognitively they're not really fully developed.
Of course not.
So they're still developing. So how can we help them name and label emotions?
Yeah.
And that's about getting the right play therapist, doing it through play, because every kid can play. Every kid can play. So how we can support them to do that. Yeah. And that's quite exciting, because there's some things that I've worked with some younger folk, but it wouldn't be me that's doing it, but it's getting the right person in and supporting to develop that system, but also support groups. What we're seeing is young people from age 18 up to 25, that network and that support is not there.
Yeah.
It's not there, and that's what McEwan Foundation, it's a community and telling their story. And just as we talked about George, he holds on to his condition, said, yeah, it's part of me.
Yeah.
But it's not a problem. We need those young folk to do the exact same, so they reach their potential quicker. Yeah, it's about reaching your potential, and hearing those stories, or whether it's George or whoever that does share that inspires, doesn't it? And it's like, because a lot of people, you know, we think about it quite often, we speak about it rather quite often, is that they think they're isolated, they think what they're going through is, you know, unique to them, and there's a good chance that it's not. I mean, I know that every story is different, and the detail's different, isn't it? But on a whole, but you know, there's so many shared stories there, and it's like, oh, that's me. Oh, look at how well they're doing it. I could be that. Inspires, motivates you, doesn't it? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And then sometimes that just bringing those people together, because there's a magic happens with shared experience. There's a magic happen with getting together. I know that we've got 3 ambassadors. You know, it's actually they're quite a wee trio now. They've got together, you know, through hooking in with the foundation, and they've been going on nights out and all sorts of different things, and they've never known it. I mean, they've all got this particular 3 have got stomas, and they've never really known anybody else that's had that, and then they've got together and they've all clicked and they're having a crack and all this kind of thing, and inspiring each other to do. They're all in different paths, but they're inspiring each other to do well in life, and being that soundboard as well. When they're a bit down, and you know, and they just get it, don't they? Yeah, I think that's what it is, because your peers, when you're at school, I would imagine, or even some folk just don't get it. No, definitely no. And I think the more that we can speak about it, the more we share that, the more we can educate our friends, our family, and the community at large to understand. Will kind of make the world a bit better place for inflammatory bowel disease community. Yeah, and it's fulfilling that ethos of when you started it. Was it 2003 when you started? 2003, yeah. That was the year Arden was born. Our destiny. That's what it is. There you are. Avril, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been good. The time has absolutely flown in. It's been brilliant. Listen, I know it takes a lot of courage to come in here and share stories, a lot of personal stuff for you yourself and for your family.
and obviously I'm from the bottom of my heart, thanks for coming in, but thanks for being such an important part of the foundation, and importantly for me, thanks for being a great friend, because I really, really value our friendship and the support that you give, not only me but our community. So
lovely. Thank you very much.
No,
thank you. Thank you.